Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're taking a first look at a potential new meta Pokemon for the Great League, Spidops. Spidops evolves from Tarantula, which can be encountered in the wild, at lures, or how I got it from a remote raid invitation. Spidops has a ton of tools that could make it a meta threat. It has superior level stats, it has a great moveset of Shadow Claw, Lunge, and Rock Tomb. The only downside is its typing, is Mono Bug. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and take a first look at Spidops in action in the Open Great League. Hopping into the first match, picking up a pretty okay lead, Stunfisk into Thievul. Thievul is used in an identical manner to how trainers use Shadow Mightyena. It's always put on the lead with the sole purpose of trying to win switch advantage at all costs to set up an alignment-dependent core in the back. But Stunfisk does have a pacing advantage over Thievul, and that's part of why this matchup honestly works out pretty well. The big difference between Thievul and Mightyena is going to be Shadow Mightyena is a lot glassier, but hits a lot harder, whereas Thievul with the extra bulk can actually survive 2 Mud Bombs. The good news for me, however, is that because they don't have a very high attack stat, Night Slash will barely not knock out, and I'm able to make a third charge attack. I throw a discharge just in case they try to catch out a flyer, but they do not. They're just going to shield and win switch. I decided to send in Furret because I don't want to reveal Spidops just yet. They go for the Night Slash, and the reason I didn't want to reveal Spidops is because oftentimes behind Thievul leads, there is a Wigglytuff, and I'd rather have single resisted Sucker Punches than double resisted Shadow Claws. The Swift lands, my opponent throws on alignment, so they are going to force my shield back before I can get my next Swift. However, in throwing on alignment, I actually feel they've made a pretty large error, because now I survive 3 more charms, but I'm going to be able to get this move on good timing, and I'll be able to save that Furret for later. So I get to this Swift is going to force the shield, and it's time, Spidops hits the field. A lot of the times they have Wigglytuff plus a Slapper in the back. If it's Marowak, I need to save a shield, but it's not, it's going to be Gastrodon. Gastrodon going to be instantly debuffed with a Lunge. Now my attack has been debuffed, so Lunge is not going to do much of anything. Gastrodon will be firing off a Body Slam, and Body Slam is not going to be doing much to the Spidops. One thing to note is that since I did remote raid it, I have a pretty bad IV Spidops. A normal Spidops will have more bulk. And here, I'm going to make the game-winning play of switching into the Furret and resetting my attack drop. Now that my attack's back to normal, I'm going to be able to land 4 neutral Shadow Claws, take the knockout with the Lunge, and have Lunge number 2 available for the Wigglytuff. So this Lunge picks up the knockout, and that's a good game. Hopping into the next match, leading Stunfisk into Galarian Corsola. This is a negative lead matchup. I do have 2 stronger answers in the back, but instead of just switching out instantly, it'd be a lot more impactful if I was able to get a catch. So I stay in to start with, throw the Mud Bomb, throw a Thunder Shock, switch, and get a catch onto the Furret. Not only that, but I do sneak a Sucker Punch as well. Nightshade double resisted, going to be doing absolutely nothing. Now my opponent sends out their Furret. The fact that I am actually up 1 Sucker Punch is incredibly important in this matchup, because I'm just going to get to my Double Swift before they get to their Double Swift. So even though I'm a little bit behind in terms of HP, I'm ahead on energy, and that's all that really matters. Because Nightshade does such little damage here, my opponent is not even going to be able to farm me down. My Furret is a very high rank, so I will be able to hang on and make another Swift, forcing them to throw energy. They throw the Swift, that takes the knockout, but I have energy on the Stunfisk, so now I can just knock out the Furret and get the normal type out of the way. Mud Bomb is going to be shielded. Oh no, my opponent is keeping the Furret around. I'm going to be letting this go. I'm saving shields for Spidops. My opponent baits with the Swift, I get to the Mud Bomb, they switch out and get a catch onto Galarian Corsola. I will full charge the Mud Bomb because they were still very healthy, and now it's time to unleash Spidops. Shadow Claws don't do a lot here, but they do hit for super effective damage, so my plan is a simple one. I'm going to shield once, and then farm all the way down. This way, I exit absolutely loaded on energy. In comes Azumarill, and I'm already at the back-to-back Rock Tombs. I have taken some damage throughout the course of this battle, but I can just artificially inflate my bulk more and more and more with each Rock Tomb. So they're at -1 attack, let's put them to -2 attack. They switch into the Furret. Swift will not knock out here, so I'm more than happy just to let this go. I'm going to bank a Lunge, send in the Stunfisk, and Stunfisk will get that Thunder Shock down, securing the win. Back in comes the Azumarill. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. We've got a Spice Lord in the next match leading Pawmot, and they save switch into a Dartrix. Honestly, I have nothing for Dartrix on this team. So I just farm up energy on the Stunfisk and send in the Furret. Furret's going to be hit with a Seed Bomb. And my goodness, the 3100s are a wild, wild place. Furret will get to fire off the Swift, but Dartrix does have some pretty okay bulk, so Dartrix is able to withstand the damage. I decide to call the bait again, just to get smacked by a Brave Bird. That's really not great. I don't know my Dartrix counts. I'm just going to throw 3 in the move, and I end up playing to a CMP tie that I do not win. Oh my goodness. Normally my counts are very, very precise, but against the Pokemon that I don't know the counts for, unfortunately my gameplay is a lot more sloppy. So Dartrix is able to get some pretty big damage onto me, and now my opponent is going to be sending out Lapras. Lapras, no shields to discharge, and it's time. In comes Spidops. My opponent is going to send in Pawmot. Pawmot is actually going to be resisting my charge attacks because they have that fighting subtyping. However, it's actively still a Pawmot, which means it has 0 bulk to speak of. So even though they no-shield the lunge, I now have a pretty clear path to victory. And that's just Shadow Claw everything down with the Spidops. I'm very worried they're on Wild Charge Thunder Punch, but all they show me is Thunder Punch. I do get that full farm down, and now I'm just spamming lunges. My opponent doesn't even need to be hit with the Rock Tomb. All I care about are the debuffs. So now they're at -1. They're about to be at -2 thanks to the lunge. And then, at this point, they just can't even really damage the Spidops. Spidops is going to get outpaced as they will throw right before I get the move. But look at this. Sparkling Aria just does absolutely nothing to the Spidops. I get to a 3rd lunge. Now they're going to need 2 moves to knock out the Stunfisk. They realize it's hopeless, and they're just going to no-shield, and we are able to take the win. Nightmare lead in the next match, Stunfisk into Torterra. I safe switch into Furret. Opponent is going to respond with a Carbink, and they do not know. Furret wins this matchup. Carbink actually has a very poor matchup into Furret as long as 2 shields are up and the Furret hasn't taken a lot of damage. And both of those conditions are in play here. So I'm just going to spam out Trailblazes. Sucker Punch is resisted, but it sure does not look it. I'm going to be shielding up because I know I need switch advantage. I cannot have Torterra getting aligned to my Stunfisk. So even though a Swift would knock out, I want to leave as boosted as possible, so I will go for the Trailblaze, and they bring in a Shadow Lapras, and Lapras does not get the farm down. I get the Swift. That may have been damage registration error, and it was, so a bit of good luck does go my way. Lapras going to actually CMP tie the Stunfisk to a discharge. Since it is the Shadow Lapras, Discharge will actually hit for a ton of damage. So my opponent will actually have to put up the shield, and they do just that. I'm very worried about a catch, so I'm actually going to throw a Mud Bomb here. And they don't catch, they just stay in. So I just threw a Mud Bomb for absolutely no reason at a Lapras. So definitely a misplay on my part. They're able to double up on 1 HP, which is a little bit unfortunate because my Shadow Claw is 2 turn. Unfortunately, I just get my fast move denied, but I already know they have a Torterra in the back, so as long as it saves the shield for Stone Edge, there's just no way they can win. In comes the Torterra. They will fire off a Frenzy Plant, but I have the shield, so I'm more than happy to shield up, make it to the lunge, and this is going to be good night, Torterra. Torterra lives off alignment and dies off alignment, and we're able to take the win. Hopping into the next match, leading Stunfisk into Stunfisk. So this is a pretty okay matchup. I'm more than happy to play this out. I will actually catch the 3rd move onto Furret because I want to try and save my Stunfisk in case there's flyers in the back, because obviously Spidops, even though it has Rock Tomb, not going to be a big fan of flyers. And Stunfisk plus Flyer is a very common pairing. I have a pretty high rank Stunfisk, I believe it's the rank 56, so I really don't like playing to CMP ties and giving my opponents the information that they are actually going to be winning it. So I'm always just going to be over farming, and when I get to the move, I'm going to get the catch onto Furret. This is really nice because hopefully my energy will be more valuable elsewhere. So now my opponent's going to send in a Fearow, and this is basically the worst case scenario. As Fearow, it has a normal subtyping. I'm never going to be able to farm that down with Spidops, and they can just double up on Drill Pecks. They win Charge Attack priority over Stunfisk, and Stunfisk, unfortunately, is in range where Drill Peck would KO. So the only path I see forward in this game is going to be to double shield the Furret and farm down. This means Spidops will have no shields, but Spidops can artificially increase its bulk with Lunge and Rock Tomb anyway. In the back, oh, it's another normal flyer. It's going to be a Farfetch'd, and this is not good. I will make the Swift. Opponent gets a catch onto Stunfisk, and I fully undercharge it. I need the farm on Spidops. In comes Spidops. Spidops going to get a full farm down. They will make a discharge, but it's not going to do a ton of damage. Spidops does have pretty good bulk, even with my terrible raid IVs. So now, back in comes the Farfetch'd, and Farfetch'd will immediately get hit with the Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb is going to land. That is big damage. And at this point, this game should be over. I'm able to make a lunge as well. So now my opponent is going to be at -2 attack. They have a massive amount of energy on the Farfetch'd, but they are double debuffed. So the Farfetch'd will throw energy. I don't know what its moveset is. It's Air Cutter. I should be able to make a move. Oh no, I don't think I can. And by staying in, I think I just threw this game. If I just switch to Furret instantly, I guaranteed win. But unfortunately, they're able to make a move into the Furret and the Stun Fist because I stayed in with Spidops thinking I could get the move. The bad IVs from the raid cost me as I do not get that move. And unfortunately, we lose that game. We see a very terrible lead for us in the next match, leading Stunfisk into Guzzlord. In terms of Guzzlord answers, we have 0 Guzzlord answers on this team, so this is going to be a pretty difficult game. The good news is that most Guzzlord run Sludge Bomb over Dragonclaw. That means that the Stunfist matchup is actually not awful. They go for the Brutal Swing, and I'm more than happy to farm up a massive amount of energy because I want to try and generate some kind of advantage out of this lead matchup. And throwing back-to-back Mud Bombs when the second Mud Bomb would just about pick up the knockout is a good way to do so. This Mud Bomb is going to land, opponent's going to save switch into Annihilate, and I respond with Spidops. I was far too slow switching into the Spidops. I threw 2 Thunder Shocks before I switched instead of 1, and that is a pretty colossal error. Also added that the fact that I shielded the Rage Fist. There was no reason to ever shield the Rage Fist here because Spidops does survive it, and because I was slow on the switch, look at this. They live on fractional HP to make it to a second Rage Fist, and that's just entirely my fault. In comes the Guzzlord. Guzzlord is back-to-back moves. I don't think the Shadow Claw that snuck would knock out, so I'm just forced to take energy that KOs the Spidops and then take energy on the Furret. That Sucker Punch won't knock out either. In the back is Shadow Charizard, and this is going to be a really tough game. I'm just going to be no shielding here. If I call a bait, I'm in a pretty good spot, and I do call a bait. Suddenly, I'm right back in this. I'm envisioning a win con in which I am just going for fast moves. So I throw the Trailblaze, and look at these Sucker Punches. Shadow Charizard getting deleted. I could have made a Swift, and the threat of that Swift forces my opponent to throw an Air Cutter. Air Cutter does get the boost, but the one thing you can't shield is Thunder Shocks. Stunfisk farms down both Pokemon, and we're able to escape with a win, despite honestly not playing very well. We move to the next match, and it's going to be a very tough game to win, as it's Stunfisk into Furret. Furret does have a winning matchup into the Stunfisk, but my entire team loses to a Furret lead, because if I switch to my own Furret, I'm always going to be behind by a Sucker Punch, and obviously Spidops is a Shadow Claw user. So my game plan is just to play out this matchup, soft lose it, and then farm them down with Furret, and then hope that with this Furret out of the way, Spidops can do well in the back. So Furret will be able to fire off a boosted Swift and deliver the knockout, and now I get to bring in my own Furret. I know that I will be hit with a boosted Swift, but Furret is a very bulky Pokemon. So, very happy just to let this go. The Swift is going to land, my opponent is going to aggressively pivot, and out comes Florges. Florges going to be immediately met with a Swift, and Swift will do a solid amount of damage. Trailblaze or Chilling Water, neither one will knock out. My opponent correctly goes for the Trailblaze as it does do more damage. Trailblaze gonna put me very, very low, but I will make it to a Swift, and Swift does get the shield. Now in comes Spidops. Spidops going to be shielding up. I don't know what they have in the back, and in case it's a Mud Slapper, I want to try and preserve HP. So even though I'm -1, I'm pretty confident a Rock Tomb will still be able to deliver a knockout here. So Rock Tomb it is, it lands and picks up the knockout. In the back is Altaria, and this is a bad matchup for Spidops. Even if I wasn't debuffed, Altaria does do pretty well here. I throw the debuffed Rock Tomb, it's gonna get pretty nice damage onto them, but it's just not enough. And the fact is, I can't ever really afford to switch out to reset that debuff because I need a catch if I'm going to win this game. So I'm just going to pick an arbitrary time past the move and switch. I go for it, and I am unsuccessful. I tried, but unfortunately, it was not to be. Even at -2, Flamethrower will KO the low health Spidops, and we will lose that game. Hopping into the next match, leading Stunfisk into Feraligatr. This is a winning matchup for Stunfisk in the Zero Shield, as Stunfisk is able to outpace due to the 5-4 pacing, whereas Feraligatr is straight 5. They land the Hydro Cannon, I land the Discharge, and so far this is a pretty nice trade. I will throw the Mud Bomb just in case they end up catching onto an Electric Resistance, but they do not. They're just going to let themselves get KO'd. They're going to be thinking about it here for quite a bit of time, and then out comes Shadow Scizor. I will make a move into the Scizor, but they make a beautiful catch onto Altaria of the Mud Bomb. That is unfortunate. Now this is a tough spot to be in, because Spidops doesn't really have a massive amount of play against either Pokemon. Spidops, I'm going to be bringing it in here versus the Altaria, but this is not necessarily where it wants to be. The good news for me about Spidops is, as opposed to last game, I'm not debuffed, which means that I actually have full power Rock Tombs. My Rock Tomb is going to be shielded up, and I will be putting up the shield as Altaria looks to connect with the Sky Attack. And now I can overfarm quite a bit with the Spidops and look to take the KO. The lunge bait feels way too risky because they might decide to save the shield for the Scizor, and they do. Rock Tomb lands, big damage onto the Altaria, and in comes the Scizor. Scizor going to be debuffed by the lunge, and now I can send out Furret. Furret going to be hit with a lot of charge attacks, but the Scizor already being at -1 is what should put me in a pretty good position. The unfortunate thing here is that if I throw one more Sucker Punch, the Swift would knock out, but then it would be charge attack priority. So I had to hope that for whatever reason the Swift knocked out, even though it didn't, and now my opponent will get farmed with Altaria. They're so low that I should be able to Thundershock down. In comes the Stun Fist, the Thundershock KOs. We farm down Scizor as well, and take the win. Hopping to the final match, Stunfisk into Shadow Dusknoir. The bulk of Stunfisk means that it does do very well into the Dusknoir. Here, I'm going to be farming up 7 Thundershocks and going for the Mud Bomb. 1 Thundershock and a catch would be a pretty safe catch, but I'm a little worried that they might just throw a Dynamic Punch, and that would be catastrophic as I would lose almost my entire Furret. So I end up staying in because I can stay in with the Stunfisk. It's a pretty good matchup, so I stay in and I'm able to force a shield. There's my catch attempt, it's unsuccessful, and out comes Shadow Drapion. My Furret having a big energy lead is going to be incredibly helpful in this matchup, as Swift will do some pretty significant damage, and my opponent will make it to their 8th Poison Sting and win charge attack priority as I make it to my 2nd Swift. They opt for the Crunch, that's some pretty hard-hitting damage, but the important thing is they are now 1 off the Aqua Tail, and Swift will not KO, but it puts them into 1 Sucker Punch range. Now, what will they have in the back? It's Gastrodon, in comes Spidops, and it's all over. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. So now, some final thoughts on Spidops. Spidops, obviously, they gave it every tool that it possibly could learn to succeed. It has really good stats, superior level bulk. A high rank one will have about 100 more stat product than the one that I demonstrated in these battles, and I do plan on building a high rank one, as I think high rank is absolutely the way to go. The moveset is also amazing. Shadow Claw, Lunge, Rock Tomb, it's able to spam debuffs with both of its charge attacks, and that makes its superior level bulk already even stronger. I will say a weakness of Spidops is the fact that it is going to struggle into normal types, and it's also going to struggle into the steels. So Pokemon like Empoleon, Corviknight, it also struggles into Altaria and Furret, and these are Pokemon that are rising in usage. Those are Pokemon that Spidops will struggle into. Spidops, where it shines, is against the Slappers, Credilli, the Ghosts like Dusknoir, and Galarian Corsola. So I think Spidops is a very strong anti-meta Pokemon. At best, it could potentially be meta. It is quite strong, but with the current Pokemon that are rising, those are Pokemon that are a little bit hostile to Spidops, but it arrives day 1 as an instantly playable Pokemon. It's a lot of fun to use, especially for a Go Battle League meta, where there's still a ton of Ghost, Slappers, and Credilli. This is a Pokemon that's going to do very, very well into those. As far as play Pokemon, I imagine it will probably stay around maybe like 8th to 12th in usage, just because the Pokemon that are climbing in usage right now, the Empoleon, the Altarias of the world, are Pokemon that Spidops doesn't really want to see. So overall, I'm pretty impressed. I feel like they did Spidops justice here. Obviously, Spidops is trash in the main series, but it arrives to Pokemon Go PvP day 1 as a very playable and very fun Pokemon. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you, as always, to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.